Hi, teachers. Right now, guys, we are 3 weeks into August. And I hope that by this time, you've thought a lot about what you are building, that you have decided what gets to be permanent, and guys, what gets to stay temporary, that you've started to protect some things, and that you have said no to some things. But here's what I'm seeing happen with a lot of teachers right now. They have this plan and the plan is full. Like every single slot they have is kind of filled with something. Every hour has something in it. Every transition has been planned. And the plan, guys, it looks so good on paper. Then they actually go to work and the plan they made meets the reality of the schoolhouse. Guys, those two things are different. A conversation that they are having runs a little longer. Some student needs something unexpected or a lesson. That lesson takes a little bit longer than you thought it would. Or maybe a meeting gets added to your list or an email arrives that now you have to take care of. And guys, suddenly the plan that looked so good before does not have room to fit in any of those new things that just happened. Guys, so something has to give. And most of the time, what gives is you. Welcome back to Teaching Without Losing Yourself, the podcast, guys. I'm Kim. I spent 28 years in education and I realized at some point that I could not fix what was wrong from the inside. So I made the hardest decision of my career and I left. Because if I could not protect teachers from within the system, I could support them in protecting themselves from outside of it. That is why this podcast exists. This is After the Bells, Beyond the Box, a moment made just for teachers, even on the move. And everything we talk about here is built around one ideal, teachers. You can stay in teaching without losing yourself in the process. Nothing here is about fixing you guys. We are just here to see things more clearly so you can make better choices inside your days. Hey guys, last week we talked about foundation, how these temporary choices quietly become permanent patterns, how you get to decide what gets to be part of your normal and what does not. So this week, we're going to go a little bit deeper into that idea because deciding what gets to be permanent is one part of building with room to breathe. The other part is actually building space in the plan. Teaching, as we all know, is not a predictable profession. Guys, it never works out exactly like you plan. None of those lessons work out exactly like you plan. And if it does, it's a good day. Go play the lottery. But there are conversations, guys, that just run longer than we thought. And there are going to be students who are going to come to us and need something unexpectedly. They're going to be lessons. They're going to take more time than you planned for. And there will absolutely, positively be interruptions that derail all of that. And if your plan that you created has no room for any of that, if every slot in your plan is completely full and accounted for, then something has to give when reality shows up. And most of the time, what's going to give is going to be you. So the question this week is, where will you intentionally leave room to breathe? Because here's the truth, guys. Space is not something you get when everything is finished. Space is something you have to build in from the beginning, before school starts, before the year really gets going, before everything gets tight, as we all know it will. You have to intentionally make room before you need it. So let's start with something like really practical. I want you to look at your schedule, not necessarily pick it up and look at it, but look at your schedule. Really look at it. Is there any space in your schedule? Are there any buffers built in? Is there any time in your day that does not have something assigned to it? Or is every single slot accounted for? So a lot of teachers do this. You have a lunch period and you think, okay, I have 30 minutes to eat. What else? What else can I squeeze in while I am sitting here? So you fit something in. You plan to fit that in the same time period as your lunch period by rushing through your lunch, barely even tasting the food, guys, barely even relaxing your mind even a tiny bit. Then you plan what happens after that. and the time after that. You build every space into something productive. And on the surface, I think that doesn't make sense, you know? You're using your time. You, teacher, are being efficient. Teachers love to be efficient. You are maximizing every single moment. But this assumes, we know what assuming does, but this assumes that everything in your tight schedule will go according to plan. And we all know teaching just doesn't work that way. You know that feeling when you have blocked out some time for something and it is supposed to take 20 minutes, and then a parent calls with a concern, a student is upset, needs to talk, admin pulls you to the side about something, or there's some behavioral issue in the hallway that you are the only person that can handle, right? And suddenly that 20-minute task now takes 40 minutes because you're doing those other things. And everything else has to shift in time allotments. The plan breaks. The buffer you left, gone. And you are left at this point scrambling to make all the things fit. And when there is no space in the plan, that scrambling usually means something personal gets pushed. Your planning time, your lunch, your evening, guys, your drive home where you could just breathe. I cannot tell you how many phone calls to parents I actually had to make in the car driving home. So the shift I would like you to consider is this. A plan that only works on a perfect day, guys, is not a sustainable plan. A sustainable plan has room in it, some space for interruption, some buffer for things taking longer than expected, some breathing room for teaching to be what teaching is. Now, here's the thing about waiting for space to show up. If you wait until everything is finished before you allow yourself breathing room, that space will almost never come. There will always be another email, another task, another lesson that could be improved, another thing that you could do. Teaching is not one of those jobs where you finish everything and have free time. That doesn't exist. It doesn't work like that. There's always something more you could do. Guys, you could stay at school and work all the way through the night until the next morning, and you will still have plenty to do. So if you make breathing room dependent on being finished, you're basically deciding that breathing room happens never. Teachers do this all the time. We do. We think, okay, once I'm finished planning, oh, I can take a break. And then planning is not quite done, or planning is done, but oh my gosh, there are emails. And then emails are handled, but oh, I forgot about these papers. And then papers are done, but there is something else. There is something else. Guys, there's always something else. And suddenly it's 6 o'clock and you have not taken a break all day because you were waiting for everything to be finished. And that is not how space works. Space is not what you get when everything is done. Space is something you have to intentionally make room for from the beginning, preferably before the year starts, definitely before the day gets going, before it gets so tight. You have to decide, this time belongs to me. This is space in my day. This is breathing room in my plan, and it is non negotiable. This time is blocked off. This hour, oh, if only you can get an hour, but this hour is protected. This evening, which should always be protected, belongs to me, even when there are things I could be doing, because remember, there are always things that you could be doing. And here's the hard part, guys. You have to protect that space even when things are undone. And I know, because I am an educator, I am a teacher, I know how uncomfortable that is. Because there will always be things undone. There will always be one more thing you could do. The question is whether you allow that one more thing to take the space you're protecting. So the shift I would like you to consider here is this. Stop thinking, I will take the time if I have it, and start asking, where am I intentionally leaving some space? Okay, so teachers are probably thinking, oh my gosh, Kim, that sounds great. You're just talking, but I don't know where to start with this. There is not space anywhere. How do I fix that? Okay. I'm not asking you guys to overhaul your entire life. That is unrealistic. Remember, I've done this job 28 years. You do not need to magically create space everywhere. Start where you already know things kind of get tight for you, okay? Every teacher knows the moments in their day when things run into each other, when the pressure builds, when space really just disappears. Some of you, it may be before school. Teachers come in and there's always something, emails to check, student waiting, something needs your attention. And suddenly that calm that you wanted by coming into school a little bit early, maybe, or even just on time before the kids arrive, that's gone because you filled it with something else. Perhaps you are one who finds it in planning, at least the 3 days you get, maybe. You sit down to plan, and 45 minutes later, you have done one lesson because you got distracted or something came up. Maybe your teammate walked in and he or she wants to talk, maybe about work, maybe not about work, but something has distracted you from that time that you built in. You might be someone who finds that this space can come in dismissal. That was always kind of one of my favorites. The day is full and chaotic, and suddenly dismissal is here, and you have not done half the things you planned. For some teachers, that space could be, that first hour after school. Maybe you've decided, I'm going to stay after school. Or maybe you did decide that and it just happens. Maybe you meant to leave, or you meant to rest, or you meant to transition home, but it's happening there. Instead, you're answering emails, or you're just managing one more thing. There are teachers who find time in the transition home. You get into your car, you get to the door, and you're still maybe not talking to anyone, maybe not doing anything, but just holding on to the day. The day still has you in its clutches. You have not let it go. Or maybe it's one of my favorites. It's Sunday evening, the Sunday scaries. The week is coming, and oh my gosh, you wake up Sunday morning and you can feel the dread, the anxiety, the weight of Monday. I mean, you literally just opened your eyes and you feel it already. Guys, I want you to look for moments in your day that are predictably tight. Are you that scary Sunday kind of person, that morning person, that at the end of the day person? I want you to look for moments when things consistently run into each other. The moments when space is already disappearing. And I want you to start there. I want you to start by creating some breathing room in just one of those moments. Just one. Maybe it means 10 minutes, just a buffer before the chaos, a moment just to reset. Perhaps it means simplifying something that you do, not doing the thing you thought you would do, so you can leave room for what really matters. It could mean leaving an evening alone, guys. I highly recommend this. Not planning anything for one evening. I know that can be hard. I'm the mom of three, all those things. Not doing anything, just leaving that evening open. So something unexpected doesn't derail everything. And even if it's not the whole evening, maybe it's just a few hours. Possibly it could mean, allowing something to wait until tomorrow. That is my favorite. Something gets a rain check, guys, and it shouldn't be you. Something is not done today. It can wait. Maybe that's what you do. You don't need to fix everything. You don't need to fix all the moments, but you need to start somewhere. We had a series where we were talking to multiple teachers about rest. And one of the examples came up where a teacher uses the time before getting into the building to reset. Doesn't even step foot in the building yet, sits in that car for a certain amount of time and just resets right there in the car. That's just a moment she protected, that she claims. I'm going to take this moment and then replicate that in other places when I get a chance. Okay. So the shift I would like you to consider is this: you do not need space everywhere, even though it'd be awesome. So start by creating it where life repeatedly gets tight for you. Because there's one more thing I want to talk about, and this is the part where a lot of teachers kind of get stuck, right? You sat down, you design your day, you plan your schedule, you think about how things flow, you decide where space should be, right? But then the schedule gets full. There is no room left. We just talked about that. That meeting's going to run long. Your evening gets shorter. A student needs something. Lunch disappears. Another responsibility gets added. And you know what happens? Something personal gets pushed. Everything continues to fit. I mean, you have all these interruptions, all these things happening that you didn't plan for, that weren't on the schedule, but everything still fits. And why does it still fit? Because you keep giving up more of yourself to make room for it. You become the thing that bends. You become the space everything else expands into. And here's the thing, guys, you are really good at this. Teachers are the best. Teachers are just incredible at adapting, at bending, at finding room inside yourself to fit just one more thing. It is part of what makes teaching work. It is also part of what burns teachers out, guys. Because if you're always the space everything expands into, then there is no real room to breathe. The plan might have space, but you are filling it. The day might have had a buffer because you planned for that, but you are using it to do something else. The breathing room might exist on paper, but you're not actually using it to breathe. You know that moment when you realize that you've been like holding your breath all day? Like you have never not rested, you haven't breathed in, you haven't let anything go. You've just been holding it. And the second you sit down, you realize how tight you are. That is what happens when the teacher becomes that extra space. So the shift here, guys, what I want you to consider, building room to breathe means you cannot always be the space everything else expands into. Guys, sometimes the meeting ends and your evening is yours, even if they're emails. Sometimes, guys, lunch is just lunch, even if the papers are not graded. Doesn't have to be all the time, but sometimes. Sometimes the evening you blocked off for yourself, let's just do this. Let's keep it blocked off. Even if there's something else you can do, because like we just said, there's always something else you can do. Teachers, you can't always spend to make the room. So here is what I want you to know as you think about this. Breathing, oh guys, building with room to breathe is not about having a perfect schedule, guys. It is about never being busy. It isn't about that. It isn't about never having pressure. It's not about that. Teaching is demanding. I challenge anyone who says they have a more demanding job than a teacher. That is not changing. Guys, what changes is whether the plan has space in it for reality. Whether you have protected some breathing room before you needed it, whether you are allowing yourself to actually use the space you created. Guys, start with one moment, just one. That moment that is predictably tight, just one. The moment when things run into each other, guys, just one. The moment when space is already disappearing, create some room there. Maybe it's just 10 minutes. Maybe it is simplifying something so you don't have to spend all the time on that. Maybe it's leaving an evening open with nothing to fill those gaps. Guys, maybe it is just one of my favorites, letting something just wait. And then I want you to protect it. Protect that time. Do not let it fail. Do not let it become productivity. Do not become the thing that bends to make room for everything else. If you are going to build with room to breathe, you have to breathe. The space has to be real. And guys, the space has to be protected and the space has to be yours. Guys, this month, we are still doing it. We are building now so that we are protected still in May. And we are building with room to breathe. Last week, you learned that temporary choices become permanent patterns. If you weren't here for that, please go back and listen to that. And remember that you get to decide what is permanent and what is not. This week, you learned that space is not something you get when everything is finished. Space is something you build in from the beginning. Next week, guys, we're going to talk about how to sustain all of this, how to keep a year like this going, because we are building for the year. We're not building for August. We're not building for September. The things we do now will be the things we do later. How are we going to build a year that you can actually live inside? Because, guys, space without purpose is just empty space. And the purpose without space leads right back to burnout. So hold on to what you have decided this week is going to be permanent or temporary, because next week we are talking about making it last. Guys, until then, give yourself the same care, oh my goodness, that you give everyone else.